Today on In Conversation With, we have Kosta
M-
Makreas,
Macrease.
Makreas, which is Greek, correct?
Absolutely. The short version from
And
Makridakis.
Kosta and Hollis are both friends with Mary and I. We had the pleasure of having their company here at the house for a while, and took them on a tour of the studio and all that kind of stuff. But they both have experiences. They both work in this field. They're very connected. You've had CE5s. I don't know if you're still doing those or not. And I know you have your own show, but you've had a lot of experience yourself with the visitors and all kinds of other things dealing with the paranormal. Uh, Welcome to the show,
Thank you
Costa.
very much for having me, Steve. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, and we're actually recording this time. We did this before, but we weren't recording. So,
We get
um,
the tech down. Yeah.
yeah. So, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and your work with Hollis. Just to bring the audience up to speed.
Absolutely. In present time, and recently, I and Hollis were the co-founders of etletstalk.com, which, as the name says, it's ET Let's Talk. It's about conversations. And that was in 2012. But beginning in 2006, here in the San Francisco Bay Area, was my first encounter with being able to do CE5, which is the human initiated interactive contact with star people. Now, I want people to know that that didn't come really out of the blue because as a young man, I was interested in all things having to do with space, science fiction, even UFOs back then, was reading what was available in the 60s, about this topic. But fast forward to many, many years later, when I discovered that there were people up in Northern California, in Mount Shasta, which, some of your viewers may be familiar with, who were doing this thing I'd never heard of, which is using meditation, visualization, heart connection to contact star people. And I thought this was amazing. So I asked Hollis to come spend a week with me, learning how to do this and experiencing something new. But she waved it off and said, I believe they're here. It's a big universe. It's absolutely for real. But I've got businesses to run, and I don't see what uh, that kind of contact has to do with my daily life.
That's
So
Hollis for you.
that's Hollis,
That's
just
great.
very
Yeah, it
practical.
is. It really is. It's
No,
it's it's fine too.
she's just doing her business, pulling out her Harvard MBA degree, and saying, I'm making a living here. And I go, that's cool. That allows me to go up to Shasta and play. So it was wonderful. That's how it worked out. Um, During that week up there, I had three different experiences that changed the course of my life, and that's why we're talking here, right now, Steve,
Mhm,
because
mhm.
this wasn't just an idle interest that got rekindled, with the UFO UAP topic, but my God, when you have your own experience, then you internalize that, and if you're real, nobody can talk you out of it, no matter how they try. Sometimes,
That's
um,
true.
right, and I decided to do more of this during that week because of these up close experiences, and I can talk more about those in detail because they were up close, direct, and personal with StarCraft and Star People that I can honestly say, and I know it's a cliche, but I can honestly say it changed my life because this was a path I didn't think I was going to take to do a deeper dive so that I wanted to start organizing other people and teaching other people just to kind of do what I did because, I'm nobody special. And I had spent some time learning to meditate with the group, and lo and behold, these up close and personal experiences happened to me and to Hollis as a result of just learning these CE5 protocols. So I did that deep dive that I didn't expect, and here I am. It's now 19 years later, after forming the ET Let's Talk community, networking with thousands of people, hearing stories, seeing their videos, seeing pictures of contact all over the world. And that's what kind of keeps me going now, keeps me inspired and connected to the community because it's only getting wider and more accepted. and more powerful because the star people are actually responding to us reaching out to them in larger
And
numbers. And there's more of a story I can tell about the People's Disclosure Movement,
sure,
about that,
a-
a- as you
ab-
wish.
absolutely. You know, it's always fascinating to me with all the things you were talking about, which I consider, if somebody wants it, if somebody needs it. I don't really care about proving anything to
Right.
anyone who hasn't has its experience, but nevertheless, they always tell me there's no proof, and I always say, well, where's your proof that where's your proof that these things aren't real? With all the things you talked about and all the things we both know about, um, if that was the same amount of evidence and material used by a lawyer in a court of law to convict you of a crime, you would be convicted and you would be put away. But because it's about this subject,
Ah,
oh, well, it doesn't. It's a double standard because that person I removed this morning was saying that he believed that the person in the show, I won't name a name, was lying, basically, didn't believe her,
mhm.
and was rude about it. And but that person didn't watch the entire show, and if they had, they would have saw all the evidence that she had. But despite all that, they'll deny it anyway, uh,
Yes.
because, like you said, and I thought it was very pointed, was that once you've had an experience yourself, no one's going to tell you that you didn't. And we don't really care what the other person thinks because you know you had it, you know you were there, and you
Yeah.
know you had this incredible experience, and it sticks with you all your life. Have you ever considered the possibility that um, this has been with you since a child? That there's been more going on here. That it wasn't something that you got into later on because you were always interested in the stars and all kinds of things that have to do with space and space travel and probably Star Trek and the rest, as all of us have. Um, I think for me, it's a result of my experiences starting at a very, very young child. Have you ever wondered if that was the case with yourself?
Now that you bring it up, I had not even considered that question. So thanks.
You haven't,
Not in that way. I just took it for granted. I always had the interest. But when you ask me directly, like, well, were my star friends, and I call them star friends and family, they, and I'm very upfront about that, were they actually with me as a child? And now that you say that, most likely, one of the experiences I had in Shasta was visible proof to me, literally a picture of all the star friends and even my earthly guides, spiritual guides, which are all connected, by the way. You know, I don't see what there isn't a line of demarcation at the atmosphere of the earth, right? We're
no,
intelligent, loving beings who care about our personal and planetary welfare. Just suddenly, there's a line between cosmic and earthly. I think it's a
right?
continuum. They all
Yes,
cooperate. They're all at vibrational levels where I think love is really what motivates most of them, and they're with us. So to answer your question, yes, they must have been, and I actually have a picture, visual proof that I can send to you later that resulted
yeah,
from.
sure, I'll use it.
Yeah, it resulted from that first week at Mount Shasta where I was making contact. Blew me away when I saw the picture because it was one of those pleasant surprises you don't expect. And
Right.
again, it's part of changing the course of your life. So that's a long way of saying yes to your question.
Well, I remember, one of my first memories is being in the backyard and looking at the stars.
Hmm.
I wasn't interested in sports and things other kids are interested in. I would go out and look at the stars and have a conversation with them. I knew something was up there,
Yeah,
and I knew somehow I had something to do with it. And when I talked to other experiencers about that, um, they all seem to recall that they were very interested in looking at the night sky and the stars. Um, to the point where in some cases their families thought they were a little odd because you know most kids want to find bugs and pull the legs off of them and
oh,
blow things up and play football and you know especially the men, they want to do all these manly things and stuff. And here's us, are kind and sensitive and observing everything that moves in nature, every frog, every lizard, every spider, and looking at the stars at night and being more enthralled by that interest, that line of interest, than the typical things in our culture.
You know, that's I hear a lot of that too. What you just said, echoes of that, where the focus is on more ethereal things, kind of out of the norm. Well, what I'd like to say now is, you and I have now lived long enough, mercifully, that from the time of our childhood until
Mercifully.
now, decades later, mass acceptance, at least in the US, and I can only talk about really the US because I live here and have lived here all my life, so I know the culture better than other cultures. However, what I'm about to say is maybe true in other countries. My point is, mass consciousness, the public, has reached an elevated awareness and interest in this topic that wasn't there decades ago, when guys like us had to kind of go it alone and try to find allies and colleagues who were interested in this topic of space, and especially life in outer space that was maybe visiting us here. You know, we had to seek that out. Now it's a lot more common. And as you know, the internet is full of videos, and thanks to smartphones, some of that is fake. A lot of it isn't. And
Yeah,
in the community that I formed, the ET Let's Talk community, I've just been gobsmacked by the videos that people send me, up close, personal stuff. You know, lights in the sky too, stories of every
sure.
stripe, and that's the evidence that I need. You were talking earlier about lawyers and all that. You know, who are you going to believe? Your lying eyes? Like you say, when you see something and you know it, and you know you weren't, you know, drunk on drugs or in some other kind of state, you were present, sometimes with other people who can corroborate your story. No one can take that away from you. Uh, and you have a choice of whether you want to stand on a rooftop and start screaming to the world, hey, listen, everybody, you know, this is what I saw. Isn't that cool? Or in some cases, because of your family situation or work or whatever, you have to keep it to yourself when people around you aren't ready, and it could harm you in some way if you did speak out. That's the typical
It
thing
harmed
that
me. It
happened.
harmed me plenty.
What's that?
I said it harmed me plenty, but I kept going because I'm obstinate and stubborn. So, and
Well,
I really didn't care what people thought of me, and I didn't care if they believed me
good.
or not. But in my doing so, I reached so many people back in the 90s, and I'm continuing to do it to this day, who write to me and tell me how much better they feel about themselves because they were so alone with this and felt that there was something wrong with them and that they were abnormal or crazy even, and didn't have anybody to talk to about it. So um, that was the purpose of that, and it is the purpose of that. So Costa, going back to Shasta, can you share with us some of the experiences you had there, or maybe one in particular that you find really striking?
Okay.
I'm sure you find them all
There
striking,
were,
but
yeah,
you
like I
know,
said, there were three that were very personal to me. But in the 6 nights of being with 40, 50 other people under the stars, with a
wow,
mountain in the background, just majestic, seeing lights in the sky zigzagging around, you know, flashing, doing things that, as we were learning, terrestrial, man-made, natural things could not do. That alone would
yes,
have been worth the price of admission. Had I not had my three personal experiences, I would have come back with all these crazy stories about uh, ships up there responding to our the lights we would flash at them, flashing back, orbs in the trees, all kinds of things. But then again, there were these three experiences. I'll tell you two of those right
okay,
now. Um, I mentioned before that when I left to undertake this week of learning to make contact, that my wife Hollis was very supportive, but not interested in the way that I was, because even though she'd been like a NASA geek, like I was when, you know, with the space shots and all that, and yes, we did go to the moon.
me too.
Yeah, no, this is,
Yes, we did go
yeah.
to the
Let's drop
moon.
that mic right
The
there.
evidence speaks.
But She just wasn't interested in the UFO thing, even though she believed it was cool. Well, fast forward to when I'm up there and making my contact every night. I'm calling her every morning because I know when she's having her coffee and sitting around at 6:30, and telling her what we saw the night before in the group. And it was all exciting and new, and she was interested in that. Lights in the sky, zigzagging, orbs, etc. Um, a few nights, a few mornings into my calling her in the morning to talk about the previous night, she stops me cold and says, "Well, wait a minute. I got something to tell you, a story." And I said, I thought to myself, what could be more interesting than what I saw last night? But go ahead, dear. You know, uh, and it turns out, to make a long story short, that here in our home in the San Francisco Bay Area, she had just turned out the light, was settling down in bed. And you have to understand, she has really good night vision. Even though she's a really great clairvoyant, it's internal vision that she uses when she does her professional clairvoyant readings. What I'm about to describe, she
Hmm.
saw with her physical eyes, and really good night vision eyes at that. At the foot of our bed, as she's just kind of settling down, suddenly there are, I want to say, I think three or four beings standing at the foot of the bed. Their lower half of them are being hidden by the bed itself. So that shows that they were physical enough that something physical like the edge of the bed could obscure their form. There was maybe a fifth one behind the other four, but anyway, they were. She says about 3.5, maybe 4 feet tall, white, like translucent, with big heads. I think small eyes, not much of a mouth, slender neck. She could see shoulders and arms and part of a torso. And then again, the lower half she couldn't see because the bed was in the way. She was, to use my favorite term, gobsmacked. This was a woman who, by her own admission,
You're not British, are you?
no, but maybe I want to be. I don't know. I like the Brits. I hope they like me. Um, I
I'm sure they will.
she she had never had an imagination, even though she was interested in space from an Apollo kind of Gemini Mercury program way. Knew nothing else about astronomy, had no expectations of wanting to see life, but there they were, and she was speechless. She said as she stared at them, and they were staring back at her. But here's the thing: she was not afraid. She only felt waves of love coming off of them and enveloping her. And as she says, who can be afraid of that much love? So she was speechless a while and finally thought to them, I actually should back up. She heard in her head their voice in a very sing song, like a sweet fashion. And what that voice said was, "Who are you?" We think this day that they followed my energy back to her, where I was up in Mount Shasta making my
Huh.
contact, doing my meditations with the group and all that. They probably showed up and said, "Hey, what's this energy stream that's going back in this direction? Let's see what's at the other end." And they found her. This is what
Huh.
we speculate. So they asked her, "Who are you?" And she couldn't think of what to say, but eventually she said to them, again, telepathically, as they're staring at each other, um, uh, "Where are you from?" And she admits to this day that a better question at that point would have been, "How did you get here?" Like, "Hey, give me some formulas or some, bring your spaceship over, whatever." But she said, "Where are you from?" And again, in a sing song fashion, she heard the thought come into her head that said, "Arcturus." And
Huh.
they stared at her a little, at each other a little bit longer, and then they just kind of faded out. It ended kind of
They fade out.
as gently,
They dissolve right in front
all
of
in
you.
front of her. And she says to me on the phone, as I'm speechless at this point because I thought I had the cool stories, but you know, this one
Yeah.
was top of the line there. So she says, "Costa, is Arcturus a place?" Because she didn't really know astronomy. And
Oh.
I said, "Oh, yeah, it's a hyper red giant in the constellation and I know I'm pronouncing this wrong, but I think it's Latin. It's Butes, but it's a well-known giant. You can see
Yes,
it with,
booties. I just call it
yeah,
booties.
it's Astronomy 101. You can see it with the naked eye if you know where to look. So yeah,
Oh yeah, it's a
yeah,
it's a mainstay in the sky, not so much in the winter, but
yeah. So you know
especially
your
in the summer.
astronomy, true. And I said, yeah, it's a place.
Yeah, oh, I do.
And what thrilled me was the next thing she said was, next year, because she knew I was going to go back. She said, next year I'm coming with you. It's personal now. And I go, whenever I'm on an interview, Steve, like, or having conversations like we are now, and I tell this story, either with or without her. Sometimes we're interviewed together and we get to do a tag team thing and give our own personal accounts. Um,
Yeah, and that's fun too. I've seen you
yeah,
do that.
yeah,
It's wonderful.
and thank you for bearing with hearing this story yet again. But I know some of your viewers.
Oh, no, I don't mind at all because, I like to keep things ingrained in my mind.
Good.
I have a very, very uh, good memory, and but every once in a while it's nice to refresh it. So, and that's fine because I have some questions to ask
Okay.
too. So, but
Well, yes.
continue, please.
So, well, to finish up with that one, I always thank those Arcturians, whoever, wherever they are, for making it personal to her, because that's what it took, was literally in her face at the foot of the bed, to get her to be interested, not just to be intellectually supportive, which she was, but to kind of draw her in and say, this is in your face, you cannot unsee this, what are you going to do with it? What are you going
That's
to do with it?
right.
So we,
Yeah. There's nothing more convincing than actually seeing alien beings or whatever they are, extra dimensional
yeah.
beings that aren't human at the end of your bed. That's a way to really
And
get your interest. No
most people,
question.
myself included, would have probably had to, let's put it this way, change their undergarments after an experience like that, because like, whoa, whoa. But
Not with her
not
mind.
harmless. She's been very psychic with her guides since she was 3 years old. And
But she's also a
yes,
scientist, I mean, so, scientists tend to be good observers and not get overwhelmed and observe the moment they're in to record the
totally.
data.
Yeah, yeah. She had an undergraduate degree from Princeton in civil engineering, and then a very practical degree, an MBA from Harvard. So yeah, this is someone who's learned to be very, very grounded, like you said, scientific, observant, and neutral. So she was able to just like, after this happened, she went to sleep. It's not like she tried to call me up or
That's Mary.
right or leave the
Yeah.
light on. You're like, I got to leave a light on. I'm a little spooked.
No,
No, she just
no,
like, oh well, I'll
no.
talk to Costa in the morning. Good night.
And she didn't go crazy and build Devil's Tower in the front living
Not
room.
yet, but
So,
we'll work on
which is what
it.
I would have
You
done.
you probably could have done that. You've got the skill to do that.
Oh, no, I could have. But, when I discovered that this was in my life, really put the nuts, the points together and brought it together, connected the dots. Um, I got obsessed, just like
Ah,
that character in Close Encounters, and that's fine. That's going to happen to you. It's depending on your personality. But after a while, you start to throttle back and level off. But unfortunately, during that obsessed period of time, you tend to lose
yeah.
friends, lose relationships, and everything else. Just like in the movie, there's a good reason that Spielberg had that in the film the way he did because it was based on reality.
That's true. That's really a knowledge of human nature. Like,
Yeah,
how are people going to deal with this or not in different ways? So
yeah,
you're absolutely right. And again, over the years, 19 years, I've been doing a lot of networking with thousands of people. I hear all kinds of stories. All again, from a range from
oh
people who
yes,
believe you on this end to people who literally, I know people who've been locked up, in institutions, who were not crazy, but considered they were
yeah.
considered that by
I
people who
know
had
about
power
that.
over them at the time to be able to do that.
Their
Families,
families, and they
yeah,
put them away. Yeah, and I know
yeah.
I know of some people back in the '90s that was done too, and it was just horrible.
And fortunately, the to go back to an earlier theme that I mentioned, was there's been more of an acceptance thanks to the hard work of folks like you who've gotten in front of a camera, made a movie, wrote
And
a
you.
book, created a TV
Yeah.
series. Gene Roddenberry, Spielberg, and all the rest of us who've just grown awareness of this cosmic presence in our own ways. Uh, I'm not saying that 100% of the people accept this, but you know what? There was a
No.
Dutch firm that did a study that ended in 2016, and they asked a lot of questions about extraterrestrial life. And they were like math people, statisticians. So they created this survey that dug deep into what are people's attitudes towards ET life. Won't bore you with all of it, but two questions that they asked in their survey that are what I keyed on were, one of them was, do you, and they had like respondents from a dozen different countries, different cultures, different belief systems, etc. So they could get kind of a broad swath of humanity, not just some little group in the San Francisco Bay Area who are a bunch of new age people that stare at their navels who, they really wanted more people. So it was a large survey. It was professionally done. So the question they asked was, do you believe that there's extraterrestrial life out there? And not just a microbe under some rock on some planet somewhere, but intelligent, developed, civilized life. And a certain percentage of them, I think 40% of their respondents, which is a huge number, by the way, said, well, yes. And then of those that said yes, they drilled down further with the next question, which was, okay, do you believe that life that we should communicate with them? So we should reach out, we should interact. And that's a $64,000 question. It's like, that's bearing down on, are you open-minded or are you afraid? How are you going to react to your belief that there is intelligent life? I think 60% of those people who had answered the first question yes said yes, we should. Um, Now, being
Wow.
mathematically minded,
That's surprising.
I took the numbers from this survey because they published, the authors of the survey published all the stats in order to show that they were, doing something professional and very organized and disciplined. I took their numbers. I did some extrapolation about the whole population of the Earth. And I'm no statistician, but this was just to give myself like a ballpark feel for what portion of the Earth's population writ large might be able to answer those two questions, yes and yes, like they're out there or they're here. We should interact. I just wanted to get a ballpark number. And I came up with 2.3 billion with a B people on planet Earth out of the 8 billion who are here who are open minded about this life and would say yes to interacting. It doesn't mean they're all out there doing it. Half the planet is trying to look for its next meal the next day. There's starvation, there's wars, there's lives that we all have. So we're not all doing CE5.
All unnecessary too. All
Well,
unnecessary. Yep.
we know all that. Yeah, we'll get there where it's
Yeah.
not necessary.
And we know the why too.
But that 2.3 billion just represents the openness to this topic, and that's where you and I, what's where the X is right now. You are here. We're living in this time where there's that openness, and where we can make our conversations and videos and all that, and they come. You build it, and the audiences do come because the awareness is raised. It's an exciting time to be living in, and it's what's allowed me.
Since
It's
day
what?
one. Since day one,
Yeah,
it's
at
been
least my day
exciting. That
one.
it's just been the e-ticket ride of all time is this experience in this body.
Well, and it's a real privilege to be at the forefront. You and I, and so many millions of us who accept the fact that we're being visited here by cosmic civilizations. We're privileged, I think, and I'm honored to be at the forefront of what others have called the creation of cosmic humanity. You know, we're not just total
Yeah,
savages in the
it's true.
mud. Some of us are looking up at the stars saying, there's life, it's visiting here, we want to interact. Let's solve our problems on Earth if we can, so that we can join the greater galactic community, because they're waiting for us to do that.
And that's where it begins. And I've been through this with people um, who are so caught up in working and the family and all that kind of stuff. They never take the time to observe the trees or nature or anything like that. It's not that they don't like it; they just don't have time for it. They think. And then you ask them the question, when's the last time you went outside and looked at the stars? And one person said to me, why does that matter, Steve? I said, it matters as much as you eating food every day and
No.
breathing air, but you have been told it doesn't. And you need to, because if you think that this existence isn't fantastic, looking at the stars at night and really looking at them and realizing what they are will change how you view life. Because in many cases, I've found that people honestly don't know that they don't realize their own sun is a
Wow.
star. And when you tell them that, they go, "I didn't know that."
Mhm.
And I said, "Well, yeah, our sun is a star." You see the light bulb go on, and I've talked about this before, and I apologize to our audience, but not everybody hears it, and you see the light bulb go off. You go on, and they realize they'll say to you, "Well, then that means that all those other stars could have planets
Ding,
too."
ding,
And
ding.
yes, that's the gateway, and they're opened
Oh,
up. And next time you see them, they're like, I've been doing that, and it's fantastic, and it really changes. But it starts with just going out and connecting with the stars, because we were all born. Our physical form was born out of
yeah.
stellar material. To quote Carl Sagan, we were born of star stuff. And we are star stuff. It's true. So
Well, and you're
it's very important to connect with
you're
nature and the
you're totally
cosmos.
touching on something that will, I think it's therapeutic and healing to really realize you're a part of something bigger. Yeah, there may be a lot of mystery and a lot of unknowns as you look up, but I was like you as a kid. When I looked up at the stars, I felt a sense of belonging, like what's out there. And actually what I
Yeah,
felt was, and this is a whole nother thing, another topic we can get into another time, but I kept looking up at Sirius and going, home. That felt like home. I didn't know
yeah,
why then. I didn't explain it to myself. It was just cool to know that that star was there among all the many others. So I
yeah.
felt that connection. Um,
For me, it was
ah,
Orion, the constellation Orion, and the
beautiful.
Orion Nebula. I have this image in my mind of seeing the nebula from the surface of a planet. Now, I guess technically speaking, if you were close enough, the star you were orbiting was close enough to the nebula, you would be able to see it in the night sky, quite large. Um, that's what I recall. But it starts there, and it's just so peaceful to go out and sit under the stars and contemplate the mysteries of the universe, to quote the Outer Limits. It's very important. So that's how it matters. But going back to Mount Shasta, I've spent a lot of
Yeah.
time up there, and that is my mailman. Uh, I'm sure that the audience would like to hear more about things you
Yeah,
experienced there. If you
the
if you want to
second
share that,
experience
we have some
was
time left.
um, every night after we finished our CE5 activities, often 12 p.m., sometimes 1 a.m. Some people stayed out later. I was not one of them, but our group would disband at night, and every night was a good night. We were seeing, like as I mentioned before, uh, many lights in the sky, doing crazy things, and orbs on the ground. So it was really very productive and heartening. But one of the nights, I think maybe the fourth in, most of the group was going home, but we were in a clearing. There were 9 or 10 of us that were still standing around doing shop talk. We'd seen that night in the clearing, surrounded by a forest, and there in the background, maybe 4 miles away, was the majestic mountain, just to kind of give a visual of where we were. Uh, so 9 or 10 of us were standing around talking in this clearing, and someone tugged on my sleeve and pointed off to my right. And I looked right at the edge where the foliage began, the forest began at the edge of the clearing. I looked down, and I want to say it was about 6 to 8 feet away from me, not far. And I rubbed my eyes, thinking it was a trick of the moon was setting, so there was a little bit of light, and I thought this was like an illusion. But what I saw was I think 3 foot diameter sphere materializing at the edge there of the clearing out of thin air, floating, I want to say an inch or two above the ground, very silently, without any other artifacts. There was no wind, no humming, no sound, no vibration. It was very non dramatic. But I was sitting there looking, and this thing is just materializing, getting more solid, and I could see the shape. And clearly, it was not a part of our natural landscape. It was phasing in. It never became solid enough that, well, none of us, even though I had the thought, wanted to go over and touch it. And I thought better of that because my rational mind said, you don't know what you're dealing with, what kind of energy is producing this. So stand back and just observe. So all of us stood around and watched this thing come on. For me, it was opaque. It was a grayish color. I could not look into it, but it was a sphere floating there. This should not have happened. You know, the amount of energy that physics says would be required to produce like that is probably astronomical, but very calmly, we were watching this happen. For half an hour, it floated there. One of the gentlemen from across our circle, as we were whispering and talking to each other and pointing at it, um, suddenly spoke up to the rest of us and said, "Hey, I just got a telepathic message from the beings that are inside that thing. We think it's part of a larger craft, but what we're just seeing is part of it that's materialized, to our senses." What they said was that they are scientists who are here on Earth studying the human energy system. So I thought, great, we're part of someone's PhD project. We're the rats in the lab in the maze, right? And I'm being a little bit flippant about that, but the um, the assertion that they were scientists made sense to me in the moment. Like this wasn't creepy or anything. I mean, this was definitely not expected what we were watching, but that explanation, they're here studying, I'm going, okay, I can go along with that, you know? And then the
Yeah.
woman standing next to me who I'd gotten to know well, that and she became friends of mine and Hollis, my wife's, later on. This woman was a really good psychic. And when I tell this story, I call her Gloria, not her real name, but she was like right next to me on my right, watching this thing along with everyone else. And then we heard the guy exclaim, "They're scientists." And I turned to talk to her, and I noticed, and I hope I can show this on camera. She was standing perfectly vertical, with her arms out like this, just held out at an angle, not moving and not responding to me, like frozen still, arms out. And I go, "What is that?" Um, I figured that there was something going on
Hmm.
with her. I didn't want to interrupt it, whatever it was, and I didn't want to leave her side in case something bad happened, right? I wanted to be right there. So for the next half hour,
Yeah.
she stood there not moving. I suppose Navy SEALs practice this kind of thing, holding your arms up, and who can do that? I don't know, but um, after about half an hour, she got a little bit unsteady and was kind of coming to. And I spoke to her and asked her name. Did she know where she was and all that? And she assured me that she was okay. She was a little disoriented, but she was fine. And so I asked her, what just happened? You've been standing there for half an hour. And she
Yeah,
said
sure.
that she was approached telepathically by the one or more, well, one of the scientists. And I don't know the gender, so I can't say he, she. I'll just say it. And I don't mean any disrespect in that way, but I don't know. She was approached by it telepathically, and it asked her, "May I merge with you and study your aura, your energy system?" Now, a lot of people hearing a voice like that in their head in that situation saying, "May I merge with you?" Would their hair would catch on fire. They'd run for their
Yep.
car and go back to their hotel room and hide under the bed. I'm being a little bit dramatic there.
But it asked. It
It
asked. It
asked.
didn't just
It
do it.
asked.
It asked.
And
Yeah, it
and
asked for
yes,
permission.
and to Gloria's credit, and she's telling me this story, and I was there watching it. She says that she negotiated with it and said, "Well, okay, you can do that, but I have three conditions." And the first condition was that she remain cognizant of her surroundings. She didn't want to just be unconscious totally. She wanted some awareness of where she was. And the being said to her, "Yes, okay, granted." Her second request was that when she decided that the experiment was over and she told the being, okay, I'm done, go, that it would do that right away. And the being agreed to that as well. So 2 out of 3 were yeses. Her third one, and I'm not trying to be funny saying this because she was serious. She said, I don't want any probing of my privates, no genital, anal kind of stuff like the traditional stories,
Yeah.
often talk about. I don't want any of that. Don't do that. And the being agreed to that too. So what I experienced that half hour of being next to her was her having said yes to all those 3 questions, which I didn't know at the time until she told me the story afterwards. And the being was doing its experiment during that half hour while she was standing there, not moving. At the point where she wavered, um, was the point where she said to the being, I'm done now, please go. And it did. She finished her story, and as we looked at the little craft there, which is really what it was, the sphere, it started just slowly doing a dissolve. And you being an animator kind of graphic guy, you can understand it was a really unremarkable, like, here I am, now I'm going away, just gone.
What was the
What's that?
diameter of that
I want to say,
craft?
I said
What do you
3 feet.
estimate
It was
that?
small. So, and I can understand appearances can be deceiving. This is what my eyes were seeing.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a sphere, a metal sphere, and we've seen a lot of these lately. I don't think much of the one that
Wow.
was found down in South America, but I have myself. A friend of mine was shooting video for me of my flying my airplane, and I noticed because I have eyes trained for that, I can see single frame, I can see objects in the
Wow.
background that most people wouldn't notice. And there was one of those spheres, and it was there a lot, and I was able to zoom in on it and look at it, and it was a metallic dull. It wasn't real shiny, but a dull gray metal with a shine on it that looks like the sphere videos you've seen so much of. And so I wonder if that's not something that they sent, that they could communicate through and observe through, even though they were in a remote location. Because at 3 foot size, I mean, we're talking
That's not. Yeah.
about that big, you know. So but they're everywhere. When I started paying attention, I noticed that those spheres are flying all through our atmosphere right now. Um, if you look for them,
Hmm.
you're probably going to see them. They're
And
observing.
you're right. My mind is open about all that. I know just what I know, what I experienced, and I can never and will never lay claim to knowing more than I know, really. Uh,
Well,
so
no, I mean Whitley's always saying that to me
yeah,
when I interview him. He says,
and I'm
"But we
glad I
don't
was
know.
there. And again, that experience
We
changed
don't."
my life because I walked away from that. My left brain scientific side. I'm a computer scientist and mathematician and things
Hmm.
like that. So that part of me was going, what I just experienced should not have happened, should not have been possible by any of the laws of physics I know of. And yet it happened. And I was there with 8 or 9, 10 other people who also saw the same thing. So clearly, what was operating here was some kind of physics that we don't know yet. And no one's going to talk me out of it. And as I mentioned before, you take an experience like that
No.
and you have to make a decision. Do I climb up about this because I need to? And there's no bad thing, no judgment about that. If you need to, you need to. Or do I get on a rooftop? Well, I found a rooftop. It's called the internet. Next thing I know is if I can do
Yeah.
this, anybody can. I'm not anybody special in this way. So there you have it. That was 2006. 19 years later, I've got a people's disclosure movement going that we founded in 2010, and there's another story there that I'd like to tell if we have time. But it's
Yeah,
okay.
we have a little bit of time left. I hate to do that. I've actually been criticized for that, but I have to keep the shows in general to an hour, and there are many reasons for that that I'm not going to go in here to now because I don't want
Well,
to take away
I'll
from
try to
your
make it
time. So
fast, and
please
it's the
tell
kind
us.
of note that I want to end on, which is,
Well, don't make it fast, but
oh, okay.
just tell the
Thank you.
story.
You're
That's
very
fine.
kind. Uh, what I want to leave people with is
And so are you.
the thing that I'm all about with this mission, ET Let's Talk, and the People's Disclosure Mission movement that I founded in 2010 with the help of my star friends. This is more than just about our individual, as important as it is, our individual contact that we make with CE5, the stories we tell, the videos we take, the friends that we find who believe us, the family, and all that. We build a little ecosystem of people going, gee, wow, tell me more. Can I join you? That's great because writ large, what's
Yeah.
happened in the last 19 years that at least that I've been involved in this, is that thousands of these groups have sprung up. And what I want to leave people with is the really big picture. I'm a big picture kind of guy, saying, why why should we walk away from this incredible moment in human history where we have these simple tools, our heart, our visualization, our minds, to make contact with these beings who are clearly here and to cooperate with them, maybe to build a golden age? They're here for a reason. They told us in a message the other week, your planet is in peril. We're here to help. We've gotten other messages. Yeah, other messages
No
along
kidding.
those lines, other experiences, visual and otherwise, that at least with the ones we're in contact with, which I think are the vast majority of them, it's out of concern, trying to help us through this time when we could have a breakdown planetary or we could have a breakthrough. I'm on team breakthrough. And that's what I'm talking about now
Right.
is the people's disclosure movement, where so many of us are having these experiences, seeing them all over the world, that you cannot unsee it. And, and then I'll tell what happened in 2010 that has led to that. We got a message in 2010 from Star People who basically asked, at least they ask a lot of us to do different roles. I had been asking the cosmos, the universe, what can I do to help the earth, to serve in some way with the talents I have in my situation? Well, the answer came in a message from Star People who basically had a real simple request. They asked that I do my part to create as many CE5 contact teams as possible in as many places as possible, as quickly as possible. And I thought, that's great. I was an organizer in the 60s. I like to do this. I was politically active, anti war, and with social justice movements and all that. This came very naturally to me. So I realized that they were addressing what I could do, create teams all over. So I asked them, what's the point? And they said, as more people ask to communicate with us in peace, with goodwill, and with love, we will show up
In
in more
peace
cities
and
where people
love.
more people can see us. They literally said we will show up in the world, around the world, in more cities. As more people see us, they will ask even more to see us in more cities, and we will do that. And as we do that, even more people will see us. You get the picture here. This is organic growth. It's like, and it's been
And it's
happening.
been happening
And they
too, very
said
much
this,
so.
they call this, they had a phrase for it. They called it a virtuous circle. And I said, okay, that's great. I want to see that. I'm there. I'll do my part. I go, what's the end game? And they said, someday so many people will have seen us through this iterative process of, you communicate with us, we show up more of you communicate, we show up even more. Through this process, they said, a tipping point will be reached some year where everything is unstoppable. The cover up will totally be over. There will be no institution of authority, no government, no church, no whatever, who will ever again be able to cover up our presence on earth. And then I asked them, that's great. I like to hear about this tipping point. When's that going to happen? And they said, there's human free will. And plus, I believe it was above my pay grade, but I had to ask. And they said, we'll let you know kind of when it happens. Well, in
Yeah.
2020,
Well, there is
it
human
is.
free will.
And that's the gift that we have. But here's the ending of that story. In 2020, I revisited that question and I asked our star people again, and we're in contact with them. Um, how about that tipping point? Are we close to it? And they said, oh, by the way, 2019, we reached that tipping point. I go, oh, that was a year ago. Wow. And they gave me an image, having reached that tipping point, that our movement now, the People's Disclosure Movement, which is more than 1 million people, who are actively interested in this topic, some of whom are making the contact, some who are just watching the videos. There's more than 1 million people in the People's Disclosure Movement. But in 2019, we were we reached that tipping point, and the image they gave me was of a snowball. We've all seen pictures of avalanches. Like, imagine a snowball, a little snowball rolling down a hill, getting bigger and bigger. And they said this movement is a
Yeah.
snowball rolling downhill. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be stopped.
I see all these little arms and legs sticking out of it as it
And I
sucks
have a
up more and more
graphic
people. Oh my
when I
god, this
when I
stuff is
send
real.
out a lot of my emails. I have a graphic of just that, legs sticking out, and guys from the government with a suitcase saying, "There's
Yeah.
nothing to see here." They're inside that snowball too. They can't stop it. So what I want to leave your viewers with
Yeah.
is that story. We're part of this greatest. This is the most cosmic, incredible movement, the People's Disclosure Movement, in human history, because we are now encountering civilizations that have likely been where we are now. They made the breakthrough instead of a breakdown. They went to the stars, and they're coming here out of concern that we might blow it. But according to them, as long as we're reaching to them and keep growing our movement, we're bringing the day of full open contact on Earth ever closer. So it's in our hands. It's our free will. If we're willing to be peaceful and solve some of our problems ourselves. By the way, they told me back then in 2010, do not consider us as gods. We don't like that. We are star people. We are not
No, no, no,
aliens. We are star
no.
people. We're
And out of these
yeah, we're
bodies, we're all the same.
we're elder brothers, sisters, and cousins. We're family. And I have another story about that, but
Yeah.
I'm going to let it end here. We're family, and let's
Well,
and they're here to help. So I'm a cautious optimist, and that's what I want to leave people with: is you're part of the largest movement in human history. Pat yourself on the back, make your contact in your own way, ask how you can help, because at this time, no one who asks to help somehow in helping our planet make a breakthrough, no one will be turned away, because every it's a whole all hands on deck right now, to save our civilization and to reach a golden age.
and they have been the facilitators of that going back thousands and thousands and thousands of years because, from my knowledge, this is what they do. They go around helping planets like our own and have been doing it for a long time because without their help, things can end up
And
very, very badly. And not just for the species,
right,
but also for the entire planet. And planets are very precious. The ecosystem is very precious. The animal life here is precious. It's
yes,
not just about human beings because we're all part of this one big living thing. It extends from you and me throughout the entire universe, and we're connected to every single part of it. And people need to be aware of this, and they're trying to allow us to be aware of this because that's a great source of healing. It's also a way to lose our anger and our tribalness, our honoring flags instead of each other and caring for each other. The end of greed,
yeah,
the end of hate, the end of anger, rage, and violence. Because once we get beyond all those things, and
yeah,
I'm preaching to
and
the
it's up
choir
to
here,
us. They said they don't
we
want to
will
do it
evolve.
for us. That would be denying us our growth. But man, it's nice to have a hand up from someone who's been there, an elder brother, sister, cousin. If you're stuck on a
Yeah,
problem, you can say, "Look, I know we got to solve this, but do you have any advice? Any other options,
yeah,
alternatives that would
yeah,
help?" And that's what they're there for. And I agree with you. It's all about the connection we have. It's all one, and it's about the love. I think that message has come through over the years in different
yes,
ways, and at some other time, I'll tell you the stories of just how much we're loved that I have personally experienced,
yeah.
which have really changed me.
If if the human race survives, it'll be
Yeah,
because of love and compassion, and that will allow us to move to the stars as they have and follow in their footsteps and help
exactly.
other worlds because we will impart on them what we learned from our own experience, and it keeps going
Yeah,
on and on and
yeah,
on
I
and
like
on and
that.
on.
Oh, and I want to leave one last thought too that lets me sleep more peacefully at night in many
Okay,
different ways, and not just from our contacts,
okay,
but others. They will not allow a thermonuclear war to happen. End of story. They know how to shut it
I know that.
down. They've done
I
it,
know that.
and they will do it again. That doesn't mean we can't blow it with a climate disaster or, I guess, chemical weapons or something. Being the creative, destructive human beings we can be, we can do better than that. But at least the thermonuclear war thing is not going to happen. So maybe we can worry about other stuff, but I really want to leave that with your viewers. And there is evidence, as you know, Steve,
Yeah,
of them showing up and shutting down missiles, the Russians and ours and others.
sure. Oh, over and over and over and over again, and I don't even. I have this funny feeling that the
Ah,
warheads are not functional. They may seem like they're functional to us, but they, in fact, if they were launched, nothing would happen except they'd
exactly.
burrow a
Yeah,
big hole in the ground, which is not good, but it's
yeah.
better than the alternative. But there have been many people that believe the bullshit that was in the Wall Street Journal, that was a big EMP machine outside of Bob Solis's base. But these people, again, are people who don't pay attention. If they looked up what an EMP machine is, it's a huge device, especially back in those days. And they would have seen it, and it would have been built outside the gate.
You're
And
right.
they don't hover, and they don't glow red. And bottom line is why would we make inoperable one of our in operation uh, missile bases? That's crazy. Our military would never allow that. So that was a complete, utter, and total lie by the Wall Street Journal and the people who wrote the article. And I don't mind saying so publicly because it's the truth. It can be, you can look up the data yourself. They have the ability to shut us down.
Yeah.
They can knock out the whole grid. So we can't even plug in a light. So, which is kind of interesting when you think about that concept because, uh, obviously their technology is such that they could shut down the grid. And
Ah,
that takes me
yes.
back to Day of the Earth Says Still, where yeah, Michael Rennie's talking to oh God, Sam Jaffe, and he says, "I'll think of something." And of course, when he shut down the entire grid of the world, he left the airplanes flying and he left the hospitals working and stuff, but everything else was non-functional. And it was that precision of what they did over just shutting everything down that
Mhm.
showed that somebody cared, really wanted to let us know that we're not here to hurt you. We're here to let you know there's something that can do more than you can,
Yeah.
and you ought to listen to us. So that movie, you know, I would change that speech at the end now. I wouldn't say it's no concern of ours how you run your own planet. Well, maybe that's true. But, you know, if we set off nukes here, it's on the surface of our own planet that's controlling our own planet. I, in hindsight, well,
Yeah.
in light of what we know today, when we set off nukes here, it affects the entire universe, the solar system, everything in it. So everything we do here, violent and outrageous like that, does have a very negative effect on the universe. And it's our responsibility to harmonize with the
And so they
universe,
do
not work
care
against it.
about what happens, but they leave it up to us. They leave it up to us to do the
Yeah.
lifting, and that's how it should be.
Well, we have to learn. And many of us ourselves have been placed in this life form unknowingly
I think
to
so. I
interact
agree.
with humanity and add to the collective, for lack of a better term. But we all have our individuality and we all have the choice. And I've heard many times people not want the Greys coming into the bedroom at night and interacting with them. They
Mhm.
ask them to go away, and they have, and they do. They do honor that. Uh, and I imagine that would go for any of the other species as well. But um, myself, I'm glad to
Yes.
be part of this program. I would not change it. I wouldn't be who I am today. So,
No,
Costa,
same
it was
here.
wonderful having you on the show.
Yeah.
I always enjoy my time with you. We had such a great time at the Greek restaurant, and that's when I learned you could speak fluent Greek because that lady was there that was from Greece, and when you said
Yeah.
something to her in a language, she just got just lit up. Remember, she came
Yeah.
over and hugged you
I
and
like to
everything. It
say
was a
I'm
wonderful
fluent
moment.
in my own mind.
And
I
that's
come short, but you know what? I could carry on a conversation well enough. Yeah. It was fun.
oh, you did, man, immensely. But what I loved was you were interacting with someone you've never met, and there was this love there, and this
Oh,
hugging and this wonderfulness, and that's what I see for humanity, not this
yeah.
other stuff we're seeing on the news every day. And we are heading in that
Yeah.
direction. So,
Yeah.
thanks to people like
Thank
you, Hollis. Thanks. I mean, Hollis, Hollis too. Thank you for
Yeah, you
allowing
should let me off my
Kosta to
leash
come
today.
on our
It's
show.
nice. Nice.
And yeah, we love you both, and
Okay.
we'll be
Thank
talking to
you
you
to
soon.
everybody.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.